How are we doing, everybody? First and foremost, happy Thursday. It is good to be back. We'll start with the obvious one. As you can see, I'm currently running solo. My boy Jared has to work tonight, so for right now, I'm gonna run solo tonight. I did that the last time I was here a few weeks ago. Man, a lot has changed since we last spoke. That whole Christmas and New Year's and having that big boy job got in the way. So had to take a couple weeks off, but a lot has happened. But was kind of just trying to recap everything that's happened. It's been crazy, a whirlwind of weeks. It's been college football playoff. The playoff teams that we kind of expected. Before the conference championship week. Um, are the teams that ended up making it. Obviously, with Alabama and Georgia, we knew if Georgia were to lose that game, Alabama was going to jump up to 1, and then Georgia would find a way to stay at 2 or 3, so we wouldn't have a rematch until the championship game, which we'll get to a little bit later. Seeing Cincinnati in there, we knew what we were getting ourselves into with Alabama. They're nicknamed Big Bad Bama for a reason, but in all honesty, watching Cincinnati play, they held their ground. They really, really held their ground. And yeah, everyone wants to say they got blown out. They got blown out. But in all honesty, you look at every single playoff game since truly the start of the playoffs back in, what is it, 2014? Yeah, 2014, junior year in high school. Yikes. Every game, most of the semifinal games have always been blowouts. The only time I can really imagine not a blowout game was the Georgia-Oklahoma Rose Bowl from a few years ago where Georgia won in overtime on the Sony Michel touchdown. So, truthfully, the fact that Cincinnati only lost by a couple scores, don't look at that as a blowout. But they had some really good moments in that game. Desmond Ridder, he struggled a lot during that game, which sucks because he's a top quarterback in this upcoming draft. But again, they held their ground. But I think one player I wanted to talk about from Cincinnati that was really exciting to watch, Sauce Gardner. You know, hasn't given up a touchdown all season. Held Jamison Williams to 2 receptions for I think it was like -2 yards. I mean, you're holding the best wide receiver in college football to -2 yards in a playoff game. That says something about the caliber player of Sauce Gardner. So everyone's talking about Desmond Ridder and Luke Fickell, the head coach of Cincinnati, but Sauce Gardner, in my opinion, is the best player on that team. And you're not only going to be seeing him play on Sundays. I expect his name to be one of the first few names called, in April by the commissioner. He's such a good player. He's so versatile, and he has the success. So, obviously, hats off to him, and hats off to Cincinnati. All season long, we're like, Cincinnati's not good. They're not going to make the playoffs. The committee's not going to put them in. The committee, yada yada yada. The committee tried. They really did try. First playoff rankings had them ranked 6th, but just keep winning and winning and winning, beating Notre Dame, beating SMU, East Carolina, other good teams in the American. I mean, it benefited Cincinnati so much. And yeah, they lost to Alabama, and yeah, it wasn't much of a game. But truly, I believe they were one of the top 4 teams in the country, and they deserved a spot. Let's see, with the other playoff game, Georgia, Michigan. Honestly, Michigan first team to make the playoffs, not being ranked in the preseason top 25. Huge accomplishment right there. But I mean, that game from the start was all Georgia. That game was Georgia's redemption game. Everyone seemed to have counted them out, saying they weren't going to make the championship game after that heartbreaking loss in the SEC championship game to Alabama. But they came out and they showed you why they were number 1 in the country for majority of the year. That defense showed you why they're not a college defense and why they're an NFL defense. That defense tore apart Michigan's offense, tore apart Michigan's O-line. And you also just look at, what Georgia's offense was able to do. They were looked like they were clicking on all cylinders. Stetson Bennett was looking like he was an All-American quarterback out there. You know, the best part about Michigan's team was Aiden Hutchinson and Daniel Job, whatever his name is, the other edge rusher, both the edge rushers. That was Michigan's huge strength on defense. Was they had the best rushing room in the entire country, and they were able to shut them down. Yeah, Hutchinson was still had a lot of really good plays, but his production was significantly down from previous seasons. So that game was all Georgia. And honestly, before the playoff games even started, we all knew where we were headed. We all knew we were going to get a rematch of the SEC championship game, Alabama versus Georgia. It was just a matter of how badly what were they going to lose in the semifinal games? Was a team going to go down a player because of a targeting penalty late in the second half, which I believe Georgia did, but didn't really do much, or is someone going to get hurt? So that was, I think, the big concerns between Alabama and Georgia really going into those games. Was we all knew they were going to win. We all knew they were going to probably win in dominating fashion, which they easily did. It was, what were they going to look like after the game? Who is not going to be hurt? What's the offense going to look like? One thing about the Alabama offense in that semifinal game, man, Bill O'Brien he's calling the plays for Alabama. He looked horrible. He wasn't calling good plays. He was calling a bunch of screen passes, and Cincinnati was all over it. So I was hoping a lot more out of Alabama in that game. But moving on, we go Monday night, championship night, a rematch of not only the SEC championship game but the 2018 national championship game. Georgia versus Alabama. In the end, championship goes to the Dogs. Georgia defeats Alabama 33-18, win the first national championship in, I think it's like 41 years. I think Herschel Walker was was on that Georgia team the last time they won a national championship. A lot of big things happened. Kirby Smart finally not only wins a national championship as a head coach, but he's able to defeat his former boss and Nick Saban. As we all know, Kirby Smart was previously at Alabama, helped with that dynasty for years and years, and then got that opportunity to move on to Georgia, his return to his alma mater. And he's not only finally got him onto that top tier of, college football, but he's always been there. He has the SEC championship games already. He has the playoff appearances. He has the big bowl games already. But the one thing he was missing was that national championship. And I mean, here it is. They finally got it. And, I think everybody minus Tuscaloosa, Alabama, was rooting for the Dogs because I'm not sure about you. I'm tired of watching Alabama win year in and year out. Now I'm happy to see a new team up there. So, hats off to Georgia for that. But let's kind of break a few things down. So I think for me, the big turning point, and it's kind of a weird turning point, but for me, the turning point for Georgia was that fumble by Stetson Bennett. Fourth quarter, he scrambles, he gets hit as he throws. It's controversial. He throws, looks like he's throwing the ball. Initial call on the field is actually a fumble, but it's an incomplete pass because they thought the Alabama corner was out of bounds. So many different things happened. Break down the film on the play. Stetson's clearly losing the ball as the arm's going back, but the speed of everything in real time makes it look like he's throwing the ball. I mean, it's the right call. It was clearly a fumble. That ball was moving before Stetson's arm started to move forward. So, clearly a fumble, but Georgia was close. They almost had a saving grace that Alabama player, when he caught the ball, at first glance he's out of bounds, and even Kirk Herbstreit's like, he's out of bounds. It's out of bounds. It's gonna be Georgia ball. Keep going on about it, but then you break down the film and it's like an edge of a piece of grass. How much it was between the foot of the cornerback and out of bounds. So in the end, it was just a horrendous break or tough break for Georgia, and Alabama was able to to capitalize. Unfortunately, they couldn't get over that third down hump. They could not convert all game on third downs, and that's what ended up hurting them. They would have a great drive, or they set themselves up in great field position. They get inside the 30, inside the 20, and they'd have to settle for a field goal. And that's just not okay for a championship game. You can't be settling for field goals in championship games. And in the end, I think that's what hurt them. Yeah, the score doesn't depict that right now. But I think if Alabama would have scored a couple more times, change some of those field goals for touchdowns, we would have had a different ball game. Alabama would have won back-to-back national championships. But they weren't able to get over that hump. And obviously the big issue was Jameson Williams going down. Best wide receiver in the country. To lose a player like that on your offense is going to struggle. You look at the offense in the semifinal game. Jameson Williams was not present. 2 receptions for -2 yards. National championship game. Jameson Williams is not present. Offense does not look the same. Yeah, he's just one player, but that offense is built around him in the passing game. So to lose him, it hurt the Alabama, but it's also Alabama. Alabama has 5-string players who are 4-star recruits, so they needed to get over that hump. They needed to score some touchdowns. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They didn't score a touchdown until the fourth quarter, inside the 10-yard line on a great play by Bryce Young, scrambling throughout the pocket. I thought he was throwing the ball away, and then it ended up in an Alabama receiver's hand. But not something they needed to get more. That offense needed to run a lot more because they were stopping Georgia. Georgia offense wasn't moving as well. So kind of there's the issue. They weren't capitalizing on so many missed opportunities. So big turning point. I think that fumble because you might think that's gonna be the turning point for Alabama. That's the big turnover they needed. They were gonna march down the field, score touchdown, game over. Again, that was going through my mind. Watching the game, seeing this fumble, seeing Bryce Young run back on the field, and I'm like, this is Alabama's game. This is where they step up. This is where Saban digs into his bags of tricks, and this is gonna be Alabama's game. But it goes back to my previous point. They can't capitalize on a great opportunity. You had a huge turnover. I mean, one of the biggest turnovers of the season for Alabama. You're in phenomenal field position. You're already inside the 30, and you walk away with 3 points in a game where you're only up now 2 points. That was as big of a missed opportunity, and that right there lost Alabama the game. You had the momentum, you had an opportunity, and Alabama wasn't able to convert. Now you can say it was Georgia defense. Yeah, Georgia's defense stepped up, but that was Alabama's opportunity. And as soon as Georgia got that ball back, they marched down the field. Like it wasn't even like they weren't even being stopped. It looks like, I was playing on rookie mode on Madden. That's how easy Georgia seemed to walk down the field. So Georgia was able to walk down the field after truly taking momentum away. Because if you would have told Georgia at the beginning of that drive, you're going to give up 3 points, they would have said, yes, that's amazing. I would love to give up just 3 points in this situation. Because I'm sure the same thing they're thinking, like every single other fan in the country, they think Alabama's going to score a touchdown right there. They have the Heisman winning trophy quarterback, an amazing offense, a great running back who's decided to go off in the last few weeks. And Alabama can convert. Georgia is able to take that momentum back. Alabama's defense comes out flat. There's no other way to make it sound. Georgia walks right down the field, scores a touchdown, puts Alabama's backs up against the wall. They're down, I think now down 8. I think down 8 points going into just like 2 minutes, 3 minutes left in the game. And they're not ready. Alabama had that opportunity, and they just completely wasted it. And there was the turning point for Georgia. Alabama has their backs up against the wall. They start marching down the field. Same thing. It's like, okay, this is Alabama. They have the skills. They have the players. Bryce Young just seemed frazzled the whole time. He was able to convert on 1 or 2 plays to extend the drive, but he didn't seem like that Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. You expect more from the Heisman winning player that season. He did not play like he's the Heisman Trophy winner. Stetson Bennett looked like he should have won the award. So, Bryce Young has his back up against the wall, and I don't want to say the whole loss is on him, but I mean that interception play was horrendous. He completely missed the target. And obviously the fact that he was able to return it, I don't blame that on him because there's a bunch of missed opportunities. But I mean, it was horrendously thrown. He rushed the play. He didn't let the play develop. Didn't underthrew the receiver, and in the end, it's an easy score for Georgia, and that it sealed the game. But it's crazy to think how a Georgia turnover was really the turning point for Georgia. You would think, we've seen so many times with teams like this in close games, championship caliber level games, if it's a conference championship bowl game, whatever it is, a team like Georgia who has a little bit of momentum, marching down the field, throws a terrible, has a really bad turnover, and they crumble. And that's it. Georgia did the opposite. It's like that's kind of like what they needed. They needed that push down. They needed to fall down a little bit. And then they came out and they played Georgia football. They played the kind of football that we've seen Georgia play all year. The fourth quarter, honestly, is probably the best quarter of football I've seen Georgia play all season. Their offense was pretty much just walking down the field without issues. And their defense was playing like we thought they were playing all year. They were playing like an NFL defense. So, Georgia deserved to win. I always kind of say when I watch games, I hope the best team wins. And I know there's some angry people. It's probably Alabama fans who are mad that Georgia didn't win the conference championship game and they went to the playoffs and pretty much they lost. My argument to that is when the playoff committee announced what the new playoff system is going to be, they said they want the 4 best teams in the country. You had the 4 best teams in the country. Doesn't matter if you won a conference championship game. Does not matter. You're in the SEC. Half the SEC is better than most other conferences combined. So, of course, you're going to see a lot of teams from the SEC in years where the SEC has 1 or 2 teams in it. It's a given because that's where all the best teams are. That's where the best players are. That's where the best coaches are. So, you got the 4 best teams. And if you're so mad that Alabama lost to Georgia in the national championship game, would you have been mad if Alabama won? That Georgia made it to the playoffs? No. The only reason you're mad that Georgia made it to the playoffs is because Alabama lost to them. It doesn't matter what happens at the regular season. Because then your argument is like if people are mad that Alabama lost to Georgia because Georgia didn't win the conference championship game. So why are you always mad that when Notre Dame makes the playoffs? Notre Dame's not in the play. Doesn't have a conference. The one year they were in a conference, they still lost. It still made the playoffs. So where's your argument with that? You weren't mad when Alabama beat up on Notre Dame last year after they lost the conference championship game to Clemson, but they still made the playoffs. The playoff system's messed up. We already know that. It's designed for top tier teams and that's it. Doesn't give any room for other teams to try to make a Cinderella run. Cincinnati was our Cinderella team this year, so we all know the playoff system sucks. There's no hiding it. But in all honesty, the best team this season won the national championship game. It's hard to play a perfect season. It's hard. There's a reason only a few teams can finish the whole season undefeated because of how difficult it is. Even Alabama, like if they would have won the game, they still had a loss on their record. Every team's going to fall at some point. So if you're one of those people that says, oh, Georgia didn't win a conference championship game, they don't deserve a spot in the playoffs, look at it the big picture. It is hard to go 15-0 in a season. It is extremely difficult. So we have, give them some credit. They won the big game. That's the most important thing. And as much as I hate to say it, conferences don't work in college football. There really isn't a point for them unless you're a G5 school. Then you can play for something. But these bigger schools, the Ohio States, Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, um, Michigan, Penn State, you keep the list goes on. They don't care. Yeah, a conference championship is nice and looks good on paper. But what do they want? They want a national championship. That's all they want. The roles reversed. Remember what 2018 when Georgia won the SEC championship game and then Alabama beat them? You think Georgia at the end of the year is like, well, we won the Big Ten or the SEC. That's all that matters. No, they want the national championship, and that's all that matters. And whoever wins the national championship, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter what happened, who won the conference championship game that year, because in all honesty, that's all they care about. Ah, by the way, we're not sponsored to them, but we're now sponsored by Gatorade. All right, let's move on to some other fun topics. I thought it'd just be a little fun one. I love too early predictions. You know, why not create some controversy? So I thought I also spelled this wrong. Hmm, thanks for noticing. It's been one of those days where it's one of those days. But let's go my top early. Two oh yeah, I did nope. I'm losing my mind today. Yep. Christian said I was really good at, podcasting, going solo. That might change after this. But, you know, YOLO. So let's do a too early top five for next season. So let's start number one. No shocker, big bad Bama, Alabama. The reigning Heisman Trophy winner in Bryce Young. Majority of that defense is coming back, which is scary because that defense looked pretty good at times this year, and they were very young. And it's also Alabama, so it's not like they're not going to have people behind. So you're getting guys like Eli Ricks, Tyler Booker, Jeremiah Alexander, Shaz Preston, Emmanuel Henderson. You're getting a bunch of guys on the offensive side of the ball to fill in the voids of players like Evan Neal, who's going to the NFL, Brian Robinson Jr., who's going to the NFL. So they're filling the holes on the offense that they're losing. And you're also forgetting the big one. Bryce Young is still there. You're returning the Heisman Trophy winner. That's going to give you a huge leg up on your competition. So I went with Alabama at number one. Number two, sorry. Number two, Ohio State. Let's talk about some of their losses. Their losses, the two big ones, the big two wide receivers, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave. It's hard to replace them. It really, really is hard to replace guys like that. Oh wait, Jackson Smith, Najiba, Jackson, he's returning. Oh yeah, the guy who just set this huge, had a huge game in the Rose Bowl with 25 touchdowns, 2 million yards, whatever it was. You're returning him. Oh wait, you're returning C.J. Stroud, who was a shoulder injury away from winning the Heisman this year. So you have probably C.J. Stroud, which we'll get into a little bit later about some of my other predictions. C.J. Stroud's returning. He has a year under his belt. He struggled a little bit midseason, but he was also hurt for majority, good portion of the season. And when he was fully healthy, he was playing like the best player in college football, without question. So, C.J. Stroud's returning. You have you have Jackson, obviously leaving. So you're missing some guys there, but you have running back Trayvon Henderson returning. So you have that run game still there. You have a good wide receiver there. The big issue surrounding Ohio State has always been that defense. Their defense has been so poor for the caliber and level that Ohio State is for the last year. However, they've cleared house in that coaching staff. That is going to be a completely new defensive coaching staff. The big one, Kerry Combs, is goner. He's gone, and he was truly, my opinion, the reason why that defense was so bad. He could not call plays. He could not lead that defense. He's not. They originally demoted him. He's gone. Picked up the defensive coordinator from Oklahoma State, who we've seen what Oklahoma State was able to do last year on the defensive side of the ball. So You know, I like Ohio State next year. As of right now, they have those pieces returning. There's 6 on offense, 7 on defense, 1 on special teams. Especially in the Big Ten, which I expect them the Big Ten to kind of take a step back. Michigan's taken a monster hit from graduation in the NFL. So you count Michigan out. Penn State, I mean, they struggle every year down the road. As much as they bring in incredible talent. James Franklin doesn't know what the hell to do with them. Ohio State once again should run the table in the Big Ten. I'm not sure who their non conference schedule is, but Ohio State has the pieces returning. It has the quarterback, which is the most important thing in football. You have a good wide receiver. You have a running back. You have some other pieces on offense. I'm going with the Buckeyes at number 2. Number 3, fine, let's get to them. The national champs, the Dogs, the big one that they got returning back, Stetson Bennett. I forgot to mention this earlier. I think probably the best part of the whole national championship game was Alabama's last drive, and they weren't even paying attention to Alabama. They were panning in on Stetson Bennett celebrating on the sideline, and seeing all of his teammates consistently go up to him and just congratulate him. I mean, look at this story. First, he was a walk on at Georgia, playing behind Jake Fromm and Justin Fields for a hot minute. You know, rides it out for a little bit, transfers, gets that opportunity, goes back to Georgia, gets to Georgia. JT Daniels shows up, truly beats out JT Daniels, and now he's a national champion. So the fact that he's the Burlsworth Trophy for the nation's top walk on, what a story for him. And it was so cool to see all of his teammates. And it shows you not just the type of player he is, but the type of guy he is and the type of leader he is, that all of these guys, all of his teammates and coaches were going up to him. You rarely see that in sports, not just college football. You rarely see that in any sport, any level, the type of, love and, praise and, just respect that his team and even Bryce Young gave to Stetson at the end of the game. So, he's shown a lot. He's obviously returning. He has the experience. Georgia is losing a decent amount on defense. Trayvon Walker, Jordan Davis, that's the big one. Jordan Davis is gone. Devontae Watt, Nakobe Dean, Channing Tindall, Darian Kendrick, Jamari Sellier. You're losing a lot on defense, and we know why Georgia won the national championship. They won the game on defense. So they're losing him. They're losing them, but I think another big thing that they're losing, Dan Lanning, the defensive coordinator, the brains of the operation. You have to give, yes, they had great players, but I'm always an advocate. You could have great players, but if you don't know what to do with the great players, you're not going to be a good coach. Dan Lanning knew how to coach them. He developed a great plan for them. Dan Lanning's gone. He's on his way to Oregon. So, what that defense is going to look like next year. They've already announced that Will Muschamp and inside linebackers coach Glenn Suchman are going to be co-defensive coordinators. I really don't. Glenn Suchman, obviously, he's done a lot with the linebacker position. Has been one of their best positions the last few years. So, he's a phenomenal coach. Will Muschamp he's yikes. So, I'm curious what that dynamic is going to look like. But you have to get Georgia's the defending national champs. They still have a decent amount returning, so you can't really take them out of the top 5. They're the defending national champs. Number 4. Let's stay with the SEC because why not? The Aggies, Texas A&M. The big addition for Jimbo Fisher is he picked up DJ Durkin to be the new defensive coordinator. Incredible hire. The big addition I think Texas A&M is going to have. Max Johnson, the LSU transfer, is now coming in. Expected him to have the starting job from day one. Obviously, it's an open competition, but I expect it to be, it's going to be Max Johnson's job by come August 1st. They're losing a decent amount. Isaiah Spiller, the running back, is a huge loss. It's hard to find good running backs at any level. So to lose a guy like him is going to be tough. DeMarvin Leal, some saying it's a huge loss. He truly took a step back this year. He was projected to be a top 5 pick, and he's going to be lucky if he's a first round pick. So not huge on him right now, but he's gone. You're picking up some other guy, Walter Nolan, who's going to help replace DeMarvin Leal. Gabe Brunlow Dindy is filling in on that role as well. And you're bringing in Evan Stewart, a wide receiver, to help out Max Newman. And you're also the other big thing for Texas A&M is how incredible Jimbo Fisher has done at recruiting. Number 1 recruiting class this year, so he's bringing in a lot of great talent, and I don't think he's done. The big one is we still have that transfer. The transfer portal is still very much a thing. Players are still, entering the transfer portals. So he's the type of guy that people are going to gravitate towards, and he's building a championship caliber team. So I wanted to actually throw Texas A&M a little bit higher. I think they're going to be a dark horse team, next year, just because of the talent that Jimbo Fisher's bringing in. He has a team ready to go for a championship, and no, I'm sure there's some idiot out there that says Jimbo Fisher's not a good coach and he's not a winner. Last time I checked, he has a national championship. He's one of 5 active coaches. 5? 4, actually, now that Coach O is not coaching. 4 active coaches with national championships. So I think that makes him a pretty good damn coach if he has a national championship. I don't think bad coaches win national championships. I'm no expert. I haven't won a championship. Maybe not yet, but who knows? But he has a good coach. He's bringing in DJ Durkin, who has a proven track record of being a very good defensive-minded coach. We saw what he was able to do at Ole Miss last year with their defense. So you're bringing in him, and then you're also bringing in a quarterback. You're bringing in Max Johnson, who's proven he's a very good quarterback. It doesn't matter if you're in high school, Little League, high school, NFL, college, the NFL. If you have a quarterback, you can compete. We've seen so many teams at all levels. If you have a quarterback, you can compete. They have a quarterback. Max Johnson is a very good quarterback. So I like Texas A&M for going into next year. So I'm gonna go with them at number 4. Numbers 5 pains me, but in honor of Jared, Notre Dame. I'm gonna go with number 5. This one, start off the obvious one. Marcus Freeman, the new head coach of the Fighting Irish. His first start on the first job as the head coach, it was rough. Blew a 21-point lead to Oklahoma State in the Fiesta Bowl. I mean, that's tough. He's a rookie head coach. A lot of people opted out, so it's a tough loss for him. But did you see the team's reaction when they introduced him? This team loves him. They are bought into him. The fact that majority of those coordinators, because we've seen so many times when one coach goes from one school to another, a lot of their coordinators will follow them. It says something about Marcus Freeman that majority, not just a lot, majority of his coordinators stay at Notre Dame with him. It says something about the quality of the program. It says something about the quality of the players, but most importantly, it says the quality about their boss. And you saw the reaction of all those Notre Dame players when he ran in as they announced him as the head coach, and all the players literally just jumped on top of him. So I think they're bought in. Some different things that they're expected to return 7 on offense, 7 on defense, 1 special teams player. That's a lot of good assets to have on a team, especially with Notre Dame when I hate to say it, Notre Dame picks their schedule every year, so they can pick who they're playing. So granted, they're going to probably walk through their schedule as they always do. Here's the big issue with Notre Dame. Quarterback Jack Cohn is gone. He's graduating. Who does Notre Dame now replace him at quarterback? They don't have anyone on the depth chart. They don't have anyone recruiting. They have to go to the transfer portal. They have to pick up somebody in the transfer portal. I'm not even sure there's the obvious one who's in the transfer portal right now, Caleb Williams, who hasn't announced his intentions or where he's going yet. Obviously, everyone's immediately thinking he's going to USC because a USC guy entered the transfer portal. Lincoln Riley's there. So let's see what the transfer portal looks like right now for possible quarterbacks for Notre Dame because again, Notre Dame's a good team. They have the talent. They have oh, never mind. Caleb Williams has announced where he's going. Well, we'll get into that. So Caleb Williams is going to USC as expected. This is awkward. Well, so yeah, Notre Dame, number 5, pretty good. So let's gonna get a little quick banner right here. Just do a little time out real quick. How I missed this really baffles me. All right, let's talk about it. Caleb Williams going to USC. News to me. Trying to see when this news even broke, because I don't even remember this happening. Maybe it could be another Caleb Williams. For the while, I saw C. Williams on the back of his jersey. I always thought it was Christian. So maybe. Who knows? Maybe this website lied to me. All right. Well, if it's not, we'll go first person to break the news. So obviously, a lot of people expect Caleb Williams to go to USC if the news is true. If the news, yeah, the news is true, everyone kind of assumed that as soon as he entered the transfer portal. Lincoln, he had a lot of good success under Lincoln Riley, true freshman. He has that opportunity to go from Oklahoma to USC, still get kind of coached and mentored by Lincoln Riley. So yeah, he doesn't need to. When you enter a transfer portal, you go to a different school. You have to learn a new playbook. You have to learn a new culture. You have to learn a lot of different things. By going to USC, he can minimize that. Lincoln Riley brought a lot of his coordinators with him to USC, so he's gonna have that familiarity with the coaches. His obviously the familiarity with Lincoln Riley. He's gonna have to learn. I'm sure the playbook's gonna change a little bit. He has to learn the new school. Get me his new teammates. So there's gonna be, I think, some struggles at the start. But we're forgetting he's a true freshman. He's still very, very young. We still have at least 2 more years of watching Caleb Williams play college football. So yeah, I think if he does go to USC, we're going to see him struggle early in his career, especially with all the different transitions. Same thing, even if he wasn't going there, we're going to expect the same out of Lincoln Riley. He's not going to walk in day one and have USC back to being a top tier college football team. Just not going to be possible. But we still have at least 2 more years of watching him play college football. Everyone's like, he's going to be the Heisman Trophy favorite this year. No, he's not. He's not going to win the Heisman in 2022. I can put money on it. He's not going to win the Heisman. But 2023 is going to be that year where he can really take off. He needs some time to develop. He needs some time to grow. He's still super young. I mean, there isn't much else to say. So I hope this rumor is true that he is headed to USC because I think that's going to be a great fit for him. I think that's where everyone expected him to go. But I like this move for him. Everyone was giving him crap because he could have wrote it out with Brent Venables. We don't really know what goes on out there. It's everyone bashes players because they entered the transfer portal. Yeah, if he really wanted to quit, he would have left Oklahoma before Brent Venables was hired. But I'm sure there was a conversation, and sometimes the coach and the quarterback they need to get along. And if there's not that connection there, and there's not that trust there, it's not going to be a healthy relationship for either party, and both parties are going to struggle. So don't bash Caleb Williams for going to enter the transfer portal when he's a top player in college football. Why he committed to Oklahoma is not at Oklahoma anymore. He committed to Oklahoma because of Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley is now in Southern California. So don't bash him because something changed at Oklahoma. But I think this is also a great move for Lincoln Riley. With the hire of Lincoln Riley, USC is like, we're going big. We're getting a big name coach where he's going to bring in the recruits. He's going to bring this program back to where it is. First step is, I keep saying it, is a quarterback. You need a quarterback to compete. USC, if this rumor is true, Caleb Williams is that quarterback. And again, I still think USC is going to struggle. I still think Caleb Williams is going to struggle. And I'm sure there's going to be people that are like, fire Lincoln Riley, bench Caleb Williams. Give them time to grow. Caleb Williams had times this year where he played like an All-American. He also had times where he played like a true freshman. He is 18, probably 19 at this point. By next season, he's going to be 19 years old. He's still very, very young. Give him some time to develop. Let him grow. Let him and Lincoln Riley build that bond and relationship up. And I think by his junior year, not only will Caleb Williams be one of the best quarterbacks in college football, but he'll have USC back to where USC football wants to be. But don't judge this first season for the rest of their time together. Give both parties a little bit of time to grow and to get better. All right. Man, hope you all are doing good. Still tuning in at this point. Truthfully, if you've tuned in to we're at the 41-minute mark and you're still listening, you're still watching whenever you're watching, bravo to you. I can't believe people are actually listening to me for 41 straight minutes. People at work can barely stand me for 41 seconds, so appreciate it. Appreciate the love, appreciate the work. But let's get into some other stuff. The state of college football. Well, it's the off season, so the coaching carousel has kind of dipped down. Pretty crazy as we expected. I mean, we saw Mario Cristobal have almost a playoff team, and then he leaves to go to Miami. And then they announced Manny Diaz getting fired, and then what are they coaching yet? USC's looking for a coach. Brian Kelly jumped ship to LSU. Dabo Sweeney's two longtime assistants who've been there from the start both finally leave. Brent Venables to Oklahoma, Tony Elliott to Virginia. James Franklin loses another coordinator, Brent Pry, to the Virginia Tech job. He brings in Manny Diaz. But you're seeing a lot of these, it was crazy. Joe Moorhead's getting another chance as a head coach. He was at the offensive coordinator at Oregon. He's now the head coach at Akron. So the coaching carousel was crazy, and I think in kind of ways it's what college football needed. You saw a lot of these coaches. Brian Kelly's been there at Notre Dame for a while. In all honesty, I was expecting him to be fired, so it's probably why he jumped ship because Notre Dame said they were going to fire him. But I think it's best for college football. It brings a little bit more excitement, especially for these teams. Look at Notre Dame. They haven't had, they've made it to the playoffs a few years, but they haven't really had much buzz around the team to start a year. There's going to be a lot of buzz in South Bend come this August because it's now the Marcus Freeman era in Notre Dame. Even Miami, they brought in Manny Diaz, big mistake. Try to bring back the U. There's excitement now. You brought in Mario Cristobal, who's been an exciting coach to watch. Even Oregon, you're thinking Oregon, they just almost missed the playoffs. They just lost their head coach abruptly out of nowhere. They're bringing in arguably the best defensive coordinator in the country this past season. So that, is also exciting. So there's a lot of excitement around, the coaching carousel. But then you also look at the transfer portal. Look at the names that have been in the transfer portal. Spencer Rattler to South Carolina. Yes, he's a bum, but him going to another team is going to bring excitement to South Carolina, a team we haven't had any conversations about in the last few years. There's now a reason to talk about South Carolina. Texas. Coach Sark is trying to bring back Texas. They picked up Ewers from Ohio State. So we're getting back to the excitement of college football, and I'm excited to kind of see what the future for next year is. And I think going into next year, yes, we have, the big teams up top that we expect there. Alabama, you expect to be up there. Georgia, I expect Clemson to make a rise back into the title conversation. Truthfully, you don't know what's going to happen next year. My preseason predictions had a similar idea of what was going on. I assumed, Bama was going to be there, Georgia. Um, but, going into this next summer year, there's no team that's, that clear-cut favorite going into it. So that even has exciting. Even I think the bigger thing is, everyone would expect that Bryce Young is going to be the preseason favorite for the Heisman, which I still expect him to be. I expect Vegas to be all over that. However, I don't think he's going to win because I don't think it was an off year for the Heisman this year. So there's a lot of names next year that could be thrown into the Heisman conversation. You have DJU from Clemson, who's going to have a year under his belt. You have CJ Stroud from Ohio State, who could have very well been the Heisman Trophy winner this year if he stayed healthy. And then you add in guys like Caleb Williams. Maybe he does go to USC, and maybe that connection is amazing, and we get 2 years of just pure greatness out of Caleb Williams. So, or maybe it's a guy that we're just not talking about. Maybe it's a guy like Sean Clifford, who's struggled a lot at Penn State, but keeps like everyone has that potential to be a top quarterback. He just doesn't live up to the potential. Maybe he finally lives up to his potential. Maybe Penn State gets over the hump and finally does something relevant in college football. So, there's all these names, but there's one name that no one's talking about. Stetson Bennett from Georgia is going to be back next year. He's going to have the keys to the program next year. And, a lot of people are like, he's going to declare for the draft this year. And I don't think he should. He's not ready for the NFL. He's not going to be a good NFL quarterback. But I think he can make a run at the Heisman next year. All eyes are going to be on him. There's going to be a lot of pressure for him. But a lot of pressure was on him this year. And he won a national championship. The pressure of winning a national championship is going to be off. And he's a very team-motivated person. If he's a team-motivated person and not focusing on individual awards, he's going to have a lot more success. And I love his leadership. And again, you look at what people were doing with him on the sidelines. His team loves him. And I really think he has a huge shot next year at the Heisman Trophy. To beat out Bryce Young. So it's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be interesting. But I think the state of college football it's a new energy is surrounded. All the coaching changes, there's transfer portal, Clemson kind of getting dethroned, Alabama getting dethroned. You're seeing new teams make the playoffs in Michigan and Cincinnati, and even other top 10 teams, Ole Miss, Baylor, Oklahoma State. You're seeing a different crop of good teams come in. So I like the state of college football. I'm excited to see where it goes, and we get to turn our direction towards the draft, which is even just more exciting. We've seen these guys play all season. We saw Aiden Hutchinson go from a late first round pick to the first overall pick. We saw, a quarterback class where no quarterback should go into the first round, and we could have 5. So we're now at the transition into the draft season, and we'll just talk a little bit about the draft while we have a few minutes to wrap up. Let me get the banner up because we always need banners. We got the NFL draft coming up. So I'll just give you some of my thoughts. Quick thoughts. We got a couple minutes. I'll start with the quarterback position. On paper, not one of these players should go in the first round. There's no quarterback that is worthy of a first round pick, but we are in a quarterback focused NFL league. The NFL runs your team runs on a quarterback position. And yes, there are a bunch of options for who are currently backups who could be starters. Gardner Minshew, Teddy Bridgewater, Jameis Winston, even in New Orleans, Cam Newton, I guess, if you want to consider him, Case Keenum, Gardner Minshew. You have a lot of great veterans, but these guys aren't going to be your franchise quarterback. They aren't going to be the quarterback to take you to a Super Bowl, which, spoiler alert, some teams don't understand it. your goal is to make it to the Super Bowl every year, unless you're a Lions, a Texans, Jaguars, Jets, or Giants fan. Every other team's goal is to make it to the Super Bowl every year. You won't do it with one of those quarterbacks. You have a lot of teams who are looking for a new franchise quarterback. Washington's looking for one. The Giants are looking for one. The Saints are looking for one. Um, in a couple years, the Falcons should be looking for one. So you have all these teams who are looking for franchise quarterbacks. And you have guys, yes, they are not worth a first round pick. Matt Corral is not worth a first round pick. Sam Howell is not worth a first round pick. Because this league is such a quarterback focused league, don't be surprised when five quarterbacks are taken in the first round. You need a quarterback to succeed in this league. And you can't wait until when they should be drafted. You shouldn't wait till the third round and hope Desmond Ridder or Carson Strong's there because they're going to be long gone. They'll be in the new city by the time you pick if you're hoping by the third round. So that's my thought on the quarterback. Don't be surprised. We're in a quarterback-focused league. No, none of them deserve it. This quarterback class is weak, especially compared to last year, where the 5 best players in the draft were all quarterbacks. This draft is not like that. I hope I'm wrong. I hope some of these guys pan out. But thank God I'm an Eagles fan. Thank God I have Jalen Hurts, and we can get the negative narrative out that the Eagles are going to be drafting a quarterback this year. So long to that one. But I think, obviously the best position in this class is the edge rushers. No question. The top 2 players in the draft are both edge rushers. Aiden Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeau from Oregon. And then another guy that we're not talking about would have probably been edge rusher number 1 in any other draft, George George from Purdue, Georgie. You know who I'm talking about. You have 3 guys in the top 5 all at the same position. That's incredible for the edge rushing class. And I don't think you can go wrong with any one of those 3. And it's been crazy to watch, Aiden Hutchinson. I think for me, should have won the Heisman this year. Aiden Hutchinson for me was the best player in college football. And that's what the award is supposed to be. It's supposed to be the best player in college football. And now I know someone argued with me, he doesn't even have the best stats. I don't stat watch. Don't stat watch. If you watch Aiden Hutchinson play, you will see he's the best player in college football. So that says why he went from a borderline first-round pick to all the way to the number 1 overall prospect. Then you have Kayvon Thibodeau, who was the consensus number 1 pick all season, except for the first 2 weeks when it was Spencer Rattler. LOL. Kayvon Thibodeau, again, he's an incredible edge rusher. So I think the Lions are at number 2. The Lions are in a great spot. They don't need to make a decision. Whichever one of them is available, they're going to take, and they can't go wrong. Jacksonville is the ones who's going to fuck it up. They're going to be doing something. They're going to take Evan Neal first overall. Or they'll take I don't even know. I don't even know how else they could fuck it up. Rehire Urban Meyer, maybe? Who knows? Maybe hire Bill O'Brien, go back to the college ranks. Jim Harbaugh. Man. So many ways for Jacksonville to find a way to fuck this up, but they can't do much worse than Urban Meyer. Well, they could also pass on Aiden Hutchinson, but never doubt that team. But, this a few other things in this draft is I think the best offensive part of this draft is the wide receivers. Even though Jameson Williams, he has the torn ACL, it sucks. I think it's going to drop him a little bit in this draft. I think he was going to be the first wide receiver taken. He's not going to be now. That injury, that ACL is something tough to come back. But you have Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, both from Ohio State, who, easily could be wide receiver 1s in any other draft. You have Jahan Dotson from Penn State, who's very, very electric. Drake from USC, who's been putting up great numbers. You have a lot of good wide receiver talent in this class, and it sucks for Jameson Williams because that ACL injury is going to hurt his stock so much. But when he is healthy, he is the best wide receiver in this class. So I hope he doesn't drop. If NFL teams are smart, they'll see he is the best wide receiver in this draft. He's shown all season. So, I hope that stays. I hope that sticks, but we shall see. But it has been a long, long show. I'm out of breath. I've been talking for so long. Again, if you've stuck around this long, bless your heart. Um, Not sure what the off season is going to look like for the show. I got to talk to boss man, Mr. Christian, Mr. Baldman, Christian Williams, what we should be doing for the show. But a lot of big focus now. College season's over. Focus is now on the NFL draft this April. Cross my fingers. I will be in Las Vegas for the draft this year. It is my birthday weekend, so why not go to Vegas and recreate the hangover and go to the NFL draft? What could be better? But you know, I'll let you know what the state of the show is. I hope to keep doing more with you guys. It's been so much fun. This first season has been so much fun to, get to sit back, talk college football. I got to meet and talk with so many great people. We had the Coach Approach guys on the show. I had my boys Johnny and Chip from All About the Birds come on. I got Jeff Bells from the Devi Royale, friend of the show, to come on talk earlier this season. I got to talk to Keith Morehouse, who got to talk a lot about Marshall football. It has been such a great first year. Thank you all of you guys for tuning in and supporting the show, supporting me, supporting Jared, supporting the cut. It's been such an honor. I can't wait. Can't wait for 2022. I can't wait for the season. It's going to be exciting. I know we have a lot planned, a lot in store, and we also, more importantly, have the best. We got a great season ahead of us. We have a lot of great talent, a lot of excitement. Like I kind of said earlier, in the state of college football, there's a lot of excitement and a lot of momentum building up for the 2022 season. So, you know, it's going to be exciting. I'm super excited. But make sure you tune into everything at the cut. You have the Devi Royale guy, or the Devi dudes with the Friday night crew. They always got their show tomorrow night. If you want to win money, tune in tomorrow night. That's pretty much all I got to say. If you want to win money, which you're an idiot if you don't want to win money, tune in tomorrow night. You obviously have Christian and Randall. Um, got the cut on Mondays. They're transitioning into less fantasy since fantasy season's over. I didn't do so well, but that's a different story. They're transitioning over to draft content, and then you have the Coach Approach guys every Wednesday. So, not sure when we'll meet again, but someday we'll meet again. But thank you guys for a great first season. It's been so much fun. We will be back soon. Not sure when, not sure where, but we will meet again. But thank you guys. Make sure you subscribe to the Cut FFB. Make sure you subscribe, follow all the guys on Twitter. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at AdamEckNFL. Make sure you just follow along, and as always, catch you on the flip side.